of the timeout, you realize that the person at the other end is frustrated and they don't want to do business with you again because they're wondering why you're having timeouts, and it happens with all the networks. So these are reasons why we might not be able to reach where we want to be in terms of remote job, data connectivity, and the cost of data. Secondly, when you talk about power supply, electricity, it's a huge gap. We haven't been able to solve that. You've seen that severally and heard in the news that majority of these private sector organizations handling the electricity broken down for more than 15 times. And there are areas that haven't had access to power supply. So if you live in such areas, how do you do remote jobs? How do you get remote jobs? How do you deliver on your project? So power supply, I would want to say, is even the first major challenge that a person faces if they're going to exploit or explore the market. Secondly, difference in the time zone. Because of the difference in the time zone, if you're working for an organization outside of this time zone, West African time, you might want to sign an agreement or have a kind of discussion around their policy. I usually suggest to people to pick jobs that are project-based, not time-based. If it's time-based, it means when they open office there, you also have to be online. But if it's project-based, you're told to work on a particular task or a project, and when you're done, your work is finished for that period. Not that you have to resume at a particular point in time every single day. That will still make it like a regular job where you have little or no freedom. But when it's project-based, you can easily work on a particular project for a day or a task, and you're done. And there are lots of collaborative tools that helps to achieve that, like Trello. If you know how to use Trello, it's a collaborative tool. If you know how to use Slack, it's a collaborative tool. We now have Jira and Confluence. And all of these tools also, because some of the young people are not yet exposed to them, it takes a while to be able to build this capacity. So you find out that if a task is placed on Trello, a person who doesn't know how to use Trello might take a while to catch up. So the speed of catching up with those who are in other parts of the world who are already exposed to these tools is also important, because the moment they ask you, can you use Google Analytics to measure the traffic that comes to a site, and you tell them no, you probably might not get a job. Can you use HubSpot? So these are the kind of questions we get when we help those who are seeking remote jobs after they've been trained to get a job. You also find out there is the issue of portfolio. Most people who are seeking remote jobs do not have a portfolio. They don't have a portfolio on LinkedIn. They don't have a portfolio on GitHub. They don't know how to expose themselves and put themselves out there based on the kind of skills that they have. So when organizations are searching with particular keywords on LinkedIn, how do they find you? They cannot find you. So it's really important that you build a robust portfolio. But your portfolio also comprises of your experiences. So if you do not have an experience, it's important to, first of all, look for internship opportunities. Now, these internship opportunities, about a month to 3 months, would guarantee you the experience to be able to get a job. And the last part I want to talk about, which is still a challenge, is payment system, conversion rate. So if you agree on a particular task that you're taking $250, for example, for a particular task, because of the fluctuation rates, you find out that at some point in time you're happy, at some point in time you're sad, because there are fluctuations in the currency. And how do you receive your money? Not all payment systems are reliable. How many hours does it take? How many days does it take before you can take in this money? Because very few people still have a domiciliary account. Thankfully, we have tools like Paystack and Flutterwave, but there are still people who are not aware they exist. So these are issues that we really have to be able to solve to a reasonable level, build cohesion, and make some progress in the ecosystem.
Let's talk about money. Osaz, you've been crowdfunding for a while.
Yes.
Yeah, we've seen from startups to other types of projects. Cole, there have been quite a number of fundraising, right? Skills development without finance is a huge dream.
Yes.
So now, what does money play in the mix of all this?
Okay. So maybe I should give a background so that maybe you understand why I do what I do. So I used to, in years past, I used to play basically in the field of those persons who go and look out for money. In other words, I'm looking for money. So I have that experience in terms of funds and across donors. But when I started building, crowdfunding as it were for agri-businesses and all that, largely the fundraising experience influenced the way we approached providing funding for boot camps. So some of the key things, first of all, we had to look at who are the persons who benefit from these boot camps. One mistake that a lot of boot camps made in the very early days of Go was the target market. We look at the Nigerian youth population or the African population, the global youth population in such a way that it's a pyramid, it's like a pyramid. At the base of that pyramid, you have the largest number of persons. Those persons do not have any form of ICT skills. They have like zero ICT. What kind of training would you give to people like that? It's basically appreciating the MS Word, the basic ICT knowledge. Now, for cases like that, you cannot approach a person like Pledges and say, come and fund us. Because yes, we'll give you the funding to train those people. But when you look at the impact that is generated per dollar, it's not tangible per se, because yes, you get to train these persons in terms of ICT level of the pyramid, which is where the boot camps now play. Here you are looking at gaining expertise in a particular field, software engineering, data science, or this, it's now specialized somewhat. Maybe not specialized, you basically want to get experience in those fields. In that particular case, what we see from our end is the fact that when we give you this fund, when you train these persons, the learning curve or the ease to employment is shorter. So after training, the chances of this person getting a job that actually pays very well and so they can pay back is actually higher. And of course, the top of the pyramid is where you have the specialized skills, where you have senior developers. Now let's come back to what the importance of funds is on. The OPEX is critical, but whilst you're focusing on the OPEX, also focus on removing those restrictions that hinder people from actually acquiring these skills. And at the end of the day, we have people who are able to transition from that bottom of the pyramid to the second level, and of course become senior developers that can then work with the likes of Google, Facebook, and the others.
Tell us how this funding model works,
Yes.
right? I remember you and I had a conversation in Lagos, and you were telling me about how, you fund basic infrastructure, computer. I was just talking to the founder of the MBM Fellowship now, and she's telling me about the different challenges that she faces around infrastructure and co. How does that funding model works? Because many people expect it to be free money, but we know that free money is not sustainable.
Yes.
So how does this work?
Basically, but the terms behind the grants actually makes it not free money, as it were. So think of it as if you're creating an endowment fund. Let's say NHub wants to create an endowment fund. This idea actually came from when I was in Go My Code. So yes, I was working at Go My Code, set up Go My Code, and a lot of persons could not afford the 300,000 naira cost for enrolling in the program. And I had targets. Investors were breathing down my neck, like, you need to train 1,000 persons in this first year. So thoughts came to me, why don't I talk to my friends at GIZ or some other organizations and tell them, just give me 100,000 USD. If you give me 100,000 USD, I'll open the program for free. Anybody come and apply for this program. I will take you through the program for 3 months. I will place you in a job. We have an income sharing agreement. At the end of the program, you get placed. You have a job that pays you maybe 100K, 200K. You pay back a monthly stipend. Next year, I already have a portfolio. I have the 100,000 USD already waiting for me by the time I want to run the program next year. So we roll that into the Pledges model. So bringing that into the Pledges model. So you want to create an endowment fund. Let's say your cohort, your typical cohort takes about 100 students, and it costs you an average of, say, $700 to train one person. So Pledges comes in and says, okay, let us fund the entire cohort. Do not put your mind on raising funds. Let's bear that burden. So take this 70K USD, run the cohort, but you need to give us a guarantee that you will place these persons in jobs. Because that's key for us. If you train, anybody can do training. I mean, anybody can just go and train. But you need to give us a guarantee that you place these persons in jobs. So when we mobilize you in the first year and say, okay, 70K, you have 70K USD, you train these persons, the 100 persons, you place them in job, 6 months later, they start paying. By the time you're coming in year 2, you already have that same 70K USD waiting for you in the account. And so you can run the same cycle in the second year. But again, this is the first year, we're piloting this first year. And thus far in Nigeria, we funded 3 boot camps, All Schools, Dev Career, and the Evolve Africa. And the goal is, we've seen these 3 boot camps in Nigeria. Let's test the waters with these 3 boot camps. Let's see how far they can go with us. By next year, when they come back and give us the results and say, okay, this is how far we've gone, see how many jobs we've created. I mean, just yesterday, one of the boot camps called and said, we already started getting repayments, which is like very pleasant music to my ear, you understand? Because it means that my money is not going to waste. Yes, it's a pilot. I mean, I used to be on the other side of the table. It's a pilot. Mr. Banks, I think you understand what I'm talking about. It's a pilot, but this is Nigeria. If you give people a pilot to run and say, if the pilot becomes successful, we'll give you more money. The pilot will definitely become successful. That's basically the reality. So a lot of persons are actually trying to make sure that their pilots actually become successful, because at the end of the year, when we do our evaluation, the goal is to, okay, you did 100 persons this year, let's get you to 200, or let's get to 500 persons. So how do we consolidate the wins and then increase those numbers? There's a mass market, he has said it, even when we're having the conversations, there's a mass market for remote work currently. And when he responded to your first question, he spoke about the fact that Nigeria is actually ripe for such. We have a large youth population, yes. The mass market is available because it is actually cheaper to train and have them stay in Nigeria, working for companies. That means 2,000, let's put figures to this thing. 2,000 USD is about 1.2 million naira. And an entry-level developer who sees 2,000 USD, which is basically not even global standard, which is less than global standard, it's a big deal for him. So he makes 1.2 million naira. He's able to train other persons. He's able to pay his debt. First of all, he's able to pay his debt. He's able to train other persons. He's able to employ other persons around him. He's able to send people to school. At the end of the day, just because we paid $700, we decided to make that investment of $700 in this person. We've been able to increase the social inclusivity, or we've basically been able to create a theory of change that benefits 5 extra persons, not just that one person. So that's basically my response.
Thank you so much, Osas. That was great. That was quite an elaborate entrance into the finance aspect of things. Because, I mean, every time we talk about innovations, but finance is very critical on how impact and investment also work. Longji, is talent enough? You talk about finding talents and we having talents in Nigeria. And is talent enough to be able to run a successful program? President.
Yeah, so yeah, for me, like if you look at, like I said earlier, talent, right, is one of the assets. Now there are several assets to any digital transformation. Government is one of them, etc. But talent is crucial. They are the drivers. They are the drivers who will drive, you know, to the logical conclusion. So for me, yes, talent is crucial. So, and because if at the end of the day we are not able to achieve talents that will be able to, you know, be engaged either remotely or, you know, on site, you will now realize that we are not making, we are not catching up. We will still be lagging behind. Because if you look at, for instance, Silicon Valley in America, without the talents in Silicon Valley, there will not be Silicon Valley. They are the ones who are, they are the shakers and the movers. They are the ones who are building stuff. They are the ones who are moving things. So whether you are, whichever trajectory, whether you are in the startup, building products, or you are just the one who are building the products, because this is how it is. So talents are crucial. So
if I'm going to help you also simplify that question, I wanted to know that apart from having the skills or the drive or passion to do it, how do you deal with commitment?
How do you deal with
commitment?
Commitment, yes.
Because, I mean, you know how it was back in the days when a guy comes and say, hey, I want to build this startup. And the first 2 weeks you've committed time and energy, and this guy disappears at the third week.
Now I'll tell you something. This is one of the hardest parts. And like I said, most times we talk about success stories, but we forget to look at what happens behind the scene. Now I tell you, as part of what we experience in this space, there are times like as a company we have to refund monies to the client because certain talents refuse to do their job, and we have to pay back. Monies has been received. In fact, this money has been disbursed, has been budgeted for the job. These same guys, these same talents have used the money, part of the money, to begin the job, but at some point they couldn't deliver. So we had to, so relationships are at stake, monies are gone. So these are some of the things that we experience, you know, in this space. We don't talk about it because it is expected. For any business, you have some of these things, you know, at the background. So, but yet, we will still believe in talents. We still believe in talents, even though we have these issues. But we still believe that it will keep getting better. Now, the truth is, you have a certain number of people who will disappoint. You still have people who will come through at the end of the day. So, so it therefore means that moving forward, we'll put you on the site, and then we'll go for the serious persons. Now, one of the things I will need to lay emphasis on talents is job ethics, crucial. Communications, crucial. I mean, some of the soft skills. Yeah, they need to have some of the soft. They need to be responsible. So these are some of the things that we're teaching as well. Now, when we came in, we're just about, okay, let's impact them. Let's ensure that we empower them with the skills to get the job done. You know, so when we started getting things wrong, then we now realize that there's a job for us to do as well. It means that we have to begin to teach them soft skills. So you need to communicate. Your client needs to know. He needs to know how, you know, where are you, what stage you are, you know, things like that. So most developers don't know how to communicate. They are just in their world, so they're just doing what they know how to do, or except maybe the project manager. But then if you are working in a group, so it means that you have to be responsible at every point. You need to give feedbacks and all that. You need to even present at some point. So job ethics, we have to make sure that we teach them, you know, job ethics, that you have to be responsible at every point. This is how you, at what stage. And now, let me tell you one of the our experiences. When we started remote job, we did poorly at the first instance. I think we were able to sign up on a project. We were able to sign up 14 developers on a project from the UK. At the end of the day, every other month, one person will be dropped out until we're left with just 2 people on that project. Remember, we started with 14. So at that point, we had to go back to the drawing board and say, hey, it's not just about capacity building. There's so much to it. We need to teach them a lot of things. We need to teach them responsibilities. And then probably we need to have them sign certain documents that if you falter, this is how you pay back, because this is serious business. Relationships are at stake. We're talking about money here. I mean, we're not jokers here. We're not playing. So, so those things, those documents to tie you and to know that, yeah, there's law. If you break, because this is serious business, we're not playing here. If you mess up, if you don't get to do, the law will take its course. So we have to sign documents. We have to teach them soft skills to ensure that they know what it takes, you know, and all that. So these are some of the things. Yeah.
Thank you so much. If I do a quick summary, you can see that in trying to build capacity and making this a great tool for us in Africa, there are certain components and factors that can help make this a huge success in Africa, right? Commitment is one of them. Talent is another. Need for infrastructure is also very key. And also, if there's something we've picked around here, is the role of finance in capacity building. It is so obvious that the constant need for free money is not a sustainable model. So there are needs for other types of financing model on trying to build digital skills capacity. Osas spoke about how they need to be some form of payback plan, and also there need to be some form of installments when it comes to accessing some certain levels of infrastructure. Now, they need to also do that capacity building in helping skills owners understand the 360 view of having of playing within the global talent space is way beyond knowing how to code. It also focuses on the soft skills. Communications is very key. Being able to meet up to deadlines and being able to be true to what you say you signed up for. The need for legal framework is also very strong in here. I believe that our friends in NIDA, can also assist with that. The need to have a more inclusive framework around remote jobs and digital jobs in Nigeria is also a needed fact. And we're coming to the end of this panel, and so I'm going to go round back again, one after the other. In 1 minute, tell me how you see the future when it comes to digital skills in Africa. Starting with you, Emmanuel.
The future is data-driven. Without data, there is no technology. It's easier to talk about profit, talk about growth, talk about expansion when you have data. So there has to be a way an organization is constantly gathering data and utilizing this data. That's the only way an individual or a startup can build a competitive edge. So if anyone is looking at getting into tech, I think the most important skill we need to have today is in data science. What happens is that after a while, data science will evolve into things like machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence, robotics, but data will still be the primaries to this evolution that will happen. So for anyone who is interested in playing on a really good field, I think you should acquire data science skills, because that's going to be the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. You're really selling your craft. I really appreciate that. Around the use of data is very important. And we agree with you, because data will always evolve into machine learning and robotics and the likes of it. So Longji, in 1 minute, how do you see the future of digital tech skills in Nigeria?
Yeah, I mean, the future is bright. If you see it from the point of view that we have constantly been progressing. You wake up, even children nowadays are clamoring. They are beginning to today you know that if your kids handle your phone, you wonder how they do the things they do. Who taught them? So that's the future. So it means that we'll wake up one day and now realize that the world is technologically driven, and there's so much opportunities that lies there. And then for me, what I always say is that if you look at the entry level, I mean, it doesn't take much. With the laptop you can begin your journey. So I mean so it's because we've seen that. Yeah, you just need a laptop. There's this day we're making this comparison. Now, if you want to go into agriculture, you're going to need so much. I'm not saying that agriculture is not cool or it's not nice, but what I'm saying, if you look at the entry level, what it takes to plug in and begin to work, all you need is a laptop. And if you're going to go for a fairly used laptop, we're talking about probably 50,000, and the high-end laptops you're talking about 200, 300,000. But you can start small. So all you need is a laptop. But if you're going to agriculture, you need the field to cultivate. You need the seedlings. You need a quite number of stuff. So if you put this side by side, digital, entry to digital space or becoming a developer is way cheaper, compared to going to agriculture. So for me, that's what it is. The future is bright.
All right, thank you so much. Coders must eat too. I hope you know.
Yes,
coders must eat. Thank you very much. Osas, what's your view?
Okay. So I mean, Turan, as you've spoken extensively about what the future will be in terms of the jobs the capacity building. I think I want to speak more on to the way I see the job market in the tech space. One key thing I see is there's going to be a rise in remote work. We're going to have a lot of persons who are working for companies in Silicon Valley or in the UK, and they are based out of local communities in Nigeria. And so it's going to spread very well. So we're going to have a large talent space. Unfortunately, when we have that large talent base, we have a lot of exposed persons in the community. And so when they become very exposed, they realize that they need more in terms of what the government is providing, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of, basically quality of life and all that. So they need more, they need better security, they need better health care and all that. And so as a result of that, you see them leaving the country. So we now have the brain drain. So we're going to have a situation whereby, yes, we are growing in terms of remote work, but we're also having a lot of these talents that we are training exiting the country to go to better communities or better economies, or basically a place whereby they feel that they will be safer or they will have good quality of life. So that's my thought.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I don't know why we don't have any lady amongst us, but this panel will change very soon. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a very wonderful session learning from our guests. Please, a round of applause for Emmanuel Otori, Longji Theodore, Osasenaga Enogeru, and I remain Bankole Oloruntowa. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think you should stay for a group picture. Thank you very much. Bankole, the moderator, and the members of the panel for doing justice to that topic. So, thank you. Yes, another round of applause for them. We're going to quickly move on to the next panel. And the moderator for that panel is none other than the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer for Complimentary Solutions, Bosun Ayeni. Please make him welcome with your round of applause. And then the panelists are Adedayo Adebaju. Is he in the house? Please come forward. Adebayo is the Managing Director of Jelorida Africa DLT. Adedayo Adebaju. Mr. Salami Kadiri is a founder, tech specialist consulting, Tide Lab Africa. Salami, you are welcome. Next, I'd like to call up Adeola Bojuwoye. So Adeola in the house. Adeola is a managing partner, Roundstone Consulting. Yes, make that loud as he comes forward. And then, to complete the panel, make welcome again Longji Theodore. Where's Longji? All right, yeah, clap for him. Double honors for him today. He's going to be representing the Director General for Plateau State ICT Development Agency, Longji Theodore. All right, Bosun, the floor is yours.
Hello.
Okay, maybe, all right. Afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here to moderate this panel. At this panel, we have 4 distinguished gentlemen. I know they've already been introduced. I would first name these gentlemen if we are okay with that. To my left is Adedayo, Lonji, Salami, and then Adeola. Right? Hi. My name is Bosun Ayeni. We're here to look at the theme of unlocking the barriers affecting Africa's digital future. So the first panel talked about the tools that Africans or Africa needs in the technology race, and they are indicated some of these tools and what we need to do as individuals. Yes, we could acquire the skills we need to achieve the goals, but there will be obstacles. That's why we're here. We're here to look at the barriers going forward and how we would navigate these barriers. At the opening ceremony, we had some conversations around where Africa is coming from, how far we have come, and what the challenges are. Web 3.0, fourth industrial revolutions, and so on and so forth. And Africa taking its place in the technology race. But now we want to see what are the landmines, what are the things we need to avoid. So I'd like to start with you, Adedayo. We're talking about Africa technology's future. I would like you to just paint a picture of what, in your view, this future means. What do you see as the tech future for Africa and Africans?
Thank you very much for that question. First of all, if you allow me, let me crack a little ribs, even though I'm not a comedian. You know, they said to predict the future, you need to have an understanding of the past and the present. So let's look a little bit, let's say about a decade or probably a century ago, what we could classify as technology in Africa. Gone are the days when our forefathers, they don't need any television to see what is happening anywhere. They will just tap the wall and then they'll be able to see anywhere they want to see in the world. You call that digital technology in the days. And also, gone are the days when our forefathers would collect a series of information from you, asking about your present situation, then they'll just look at your hand and they'll be able to predict the future. You call that predictive analysis after data collection. So my point is, most of all these things have been existing back in the days. But now looking at the future of it, what is our current situation? How many people have we been able to train? Or encouragement have we been able to provide to incentivize people into looking into digital transformation? How many manpower do we currently have? Generally Africa, my current company, we started in Nigeria, then we started to expand to the rest of the West African countries, then just a little bit of last year, expanded to East Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, and Tanzania, to understand the current terrain of where we are, especially in blockchain technology. So what I can see currently is kind of encouraging, looking at where Rwanda currently is, the current situation in the government is also incentivizing them and also encouraging them to deploy more solutions. So looking at all this from where we came from, where we are, I see the future for Africans. Digital transformation has been a very, very, very bright one. But then one thing is very, very important when looking at all this, which is local content, developing our own solutions by Africans and for Africans. So which is one of the reasons that I saw Africa as one of the solutions creator, not just buying solutions from from foreign countries, but we are able to create our own solutions to solve our own problems. Because our problems in a way are kind of very, very unique. And it's not just something that we can just buy for Africa. So the future is bright for us, if I may say. Thanks.
A number of international bodies. And in Africa, we are looking at our future. And most of these bodies try their best to set agendas, goals on what they think the world should achieve and what Africa should achieve. Which of these goals do you think what I want to do with this first set of questions is to establish the kind of future we see, because like Adedayo said, in Africa we say you need to know where you are coming from before you know where you are going to. If you want to identify the barriers that would impede us or that could impede Africa from getting to a future, the first question is, what really is this future? So which of the goals set by these multilateral agencies do you think best depict the future of technology for Africa?
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I would like to start from the way technology has, changed the world. Starting from, you have in Convention, I think they are developing an airport for drones and flying taxis, to the drones that you see, to the AR devices that are being used by surgeons. AR devices that are being used by surgeons to, make effective decision in surgical procedures, and so on and so forth. On one hand, you feel that it's scary when you see these new technologies coming on board, especially when it gets to the hands of the bad guys. But the other hand, we're also excited when you look at all the solutions that those kind of new emerging technologies are bringing, on board. Now, when we're not going to link this up to the future of tech in Africa, it can never be said outside the youth, because the youth are the future of Africa, which is a fact. And everything we are going to be talking about will have to be aligned with, how do you empower those youths? We need to start leveraging on what we have. And I think what we have in abundance is those youths. We have them in abundance, but the only challenge we have is, what are the policies that, are available to be able to ensure that these guys are properly well equipped? And when I say well equipped, I'm talking about, I have a lot of organizations, stakeholders, both from government and also from multilaterals. When they want to bring in money to say they want to invest in, capacity development, there are certain conditions that are attached to it that you just realize that, no, this can't really fly, in Nigeria. Starting from the policy, which is, you have discriminatory policies where I don't understand why my young cousins will be moving in Lagos, who is a tech guy, and because he has dreads, police will see him and just feel that, he is a bad guy. Meanwhile, so the future I see at the end of the day for this youth would be a future where youth are going to school, and it's not just about they want to get employed, but it's more about we want to profile solutions. We need to start integrating that. So when you see youth coming out of school in the next, say, 5-10 years, it's already a culture that, I'm coming out not just to become employed. I'm coming out to come and add value to the society. I'm not joining a company because I want them to start paying me salary. I'm joining that company because I want to participate in entrenching fintech in Nigeria, entrenching technology in agri space or in the medical field. That's the future I see. And I think if with all the discussion that is going on here and some little effort.
Thank you so much, Salami. Thank you for that. In fact, Longi, you would have to permit me, because of Salami's responses, I'd like to ask Adeola a question. Salami's response aligns strongly with some of the things the Honorable Minister around references to Africa, indeed Nigeria, having the younger and fourth industrial revolution, and indeed a confirmation that from the projections of the World Bank, that Africa would be the only continent with a growing population of young people between the ages of 15 to 25, 24. Now, again, still on the future of tech. For these young people, beyond, hopefully leaving behind being held on the road for wearing dreads, should they personally now, not generic, as a young person in the next 5 years, what will they feel? What are the tangible? What are these technology future? Young people now, a lot of them are in the audience. Because this future, people tend to relate with it when they can paint the right picture. It builds an expectation in them. What do you think young people should look forward to?
Well, thank you very much. That's actually a really important one. And I'm quite happy that that has come up. For me, I think a lot of that needs to be responsibilities of now. We need to be, as professionals and as people in the industry, we need to be able to paint and celebrate the right things. If we're able to set the right standards, if we're able to celebrate the right people, doing the right thing, concerted efforts. For example, there's no literature being written about how someone built a unicorn drone. But we've let it to the point now where, unless the person has become this big guy that is raising money and having all of this, they're getting there. Something that needs to be nurtured, right? It needs to be intentionally taken care of. It needs to be something that we're looking at and we're factual about ourselves.
Of the value system to help shape them and prepare them for this future that is being built for them, or they are creating themselves as well.
Things I've learned over the years working with young people, because some youth, the movement, the first set of developers that we had, they are currently working elsewhere. When the moment they started making money, so they kind of influenced the ones that came behind them. Now there are certain things some people came, different perspectives. Some saw that these young people, we look up to them as models. They've been working for a while and they're making some small monies here and there, and so for some they were driven by for ourselves. So they were driven. Remember, they came in because they saw those people a little bit financially. They have achieved change to do whatever they want. So they came in with the mindset that, okay, I'm going to learn and start making money. So we had that between that period, we had a set of when we got back to do some check, when I realized that these sets of guys can only get us to a certain point and cannot go beyond that point. So that's another problem that we experience.
It is in now between the both of you coming together and finding ways to collaborate and then ask for 500,000 on the basis of it. This is where I think that dynamic needs to start to move towards. We need to move away from monetizing most of all of the progress that we think we have, and now just think about what is the problem that we're solving, and ultimately the money part of it will come through. This is my thinking.
So I agree with what he had said. I agree with what he had said. I have a problem with. Okay, so I agree with what he has said, except for the fact that. So we've always been talking about, youth. We've always been telling youth that, you guys need to understand that it's value first before money. We have been saying this years in, year out. But I think you really can't blame the youth, when they go out there and just learn 1-2 things and they start internet. The moment you have access to internet, you feel that you have almost everything that you can do anything. We are forgetting the fact that it's the culture. Our culture is that culture that we celebrate too early. It's part of us. So it's just like you going to the toilet. Nobody cares if it was a man that was going to the toilet or if it was a lady that was going to the toilet. So that's something that has been institutionalized. It's just part of us. And the way you can do that is it must start from the basis, which is either from the primary schools from the secondary schools, and most importantly, tertiary institution. How we need, it's not because everybody has it that I'm going out there, once I leave this university, I'm going to get a job in oil firm, I'm going to get a job in maybe government, but they're not thinking about what solution am I creating that would even create more wealth. And salaries, we all know, is never going to create more, creating wealth for other people, through that. So I think the focus should now be back to, the institutions. And when I say institution, I'm talking about from the primary to tertiary. Not, once they get to that, your hub level, they are fully baked. All they are looking for is money. So if we keep talking value, okay, say what you want to say and let me just go and get money. So that's where, I feel we should focus on. Thank you.
Thank you, Salami. You've kind of broadened the discussion. So, yes, we have not started barriers, but what you have said in summary about the first barrier we are acknowledging is that it's a society-wide.
Very successful and those who are not. Let's take, for instance, furniture craft. You find out that those some products or some furniture people, you find out that people would rather go to A than B because A has perfected the art. And so that's how it is. It's your availability, it's what you want. If you want to be diligent, you can make more money, then it means that when you're learning, you have to learn well. You have to read ahead and stuff like that. So so that's how it is. So people come in with different mindsets. They get distracted at some point. Money becomes for them. For some people are saying, no, this is not, I can do certain solutions and just get, to take my time. The time that I have right now, I want to dig deep. I want to.
Sometimes we think we've seen it all until you have a need to recruit. And then you open the job portal, a lot of people apply and you start interviewing them. Then you realize that the majority of them, still the youngsters, the Gen Z. Number one, they will call themselves the senior developers. Yet they have little to no experience. Yet, yes, they've learned. I mean, they went online to read, to research, and then probably write a few codes. Not well structured, by the way. And then you start discussing salaries. And then they'll be requesting for $1,000, $2,000 on a monthly basis. What exactly is the evidence that you'd actually deserve this? I mean, it's joy of any developer or any innovator comes in two phases. Number one is when you smile to the bank. Number two is when people actually appreciate your project enough to use it and you start gathering user database. But majority of them focus attention on the first one. They all want to be smiling to the bank. They want to get rich quick. And this is the kind of scenario we find ourselves these days. Because I even had a recent experience when my senior backend developer wanted to travel abroad to further his studies. So we need to fill in some voids. So we interviewed a lot of developers and it was very, very funny situation. We were just laughing, exactly have you done? And they were unable to defend any of this. Basically what most of them have done is that they've gone online, they've learned a few things about Rust programming, about Python, Solidity, and they said, I'm a full stack developer, I'm a senior developer, I want this, I want that. But then eventually, if you rush into making the decision and probably recruiting them, eventually it will show in the kind of services you are rendering. So it will make the company look bad. So if we want to pride ourselves in developing solutions that are actually scalable, usable by the people, we need to make sure we recruit the people we should be recruiting. So not just going after the youngsters who have all the time up their sleeves, who are very creative. Let's look at what they're actually capable of delivering, because eventually it might taint the image and the credibility of the company itself. So out there today, yeah, we can say we've trained a lot of developers, but how are they when it comes to corporate training? Do they have what it takes to be in the environment? So these days we see a lot of them out there, but how many of them are actually useful and useful? So these are one of the major barriers I think we are facing currently in Africa.
Gentlemen, if I follow you closely, and I think I'm trying my best to do that, what I'm hearing you say is that barriers don't really exist, or in the technology space for the future of tech, especially for young people, the barriers we see are self-imposed, are barriers they learn from the society around them. But the general impression I get, and I think a lot of people get, is that, oh, Africa is at a disadvantage. There are a lot of barriers limiting young people in Africa from achieving their potentials. Some of these barriers are put in there by government. Government needs to remove these barriers. So the question is really, these barriers, are they a mirage, or are they real and true barriers that are preventing, perhaps making young developers and young tech engineers broadly act the way they do? I am sure there are real barriers. So, gentlemen, I would like in this round of questions now to look for true things that hold people back. The best of people you describe, people who really want to learn, who really want to do this. What are those limiting factors that are holding them back, that are not making a young 22-year-old fresh out of school, maybe somewhere in Ibadan or in Maiduguri, do act as freely as an equivalent young chap in San Francisco or Brussels? What are these barriers? Maybe we could start from you, and then we go the other way.
From the way I see it, the barriers actually do exist. There are some that we can call them the self-inflicted barriers. Kind of situation we put ourselves in, just like I mentioned earlier, where we have junior developers, self-acclaimed senior developers. Now they have everything that they need, to become a better developer, but they decided not to follow in that line. But then let's look at Nigeria as a whole. I mean, for you to become a developer, for you to learn, you need access to a lot of facilities. The previous session, they made mention of the power supply, the internet facilities and all. I mean, there is little that you can do now that the world is going remotely. There is little that you can do if you don't have access to most of those things. Then, of course, the government supports. But the truth of the matter is this. Most of all these things, they are self-inflicted. You can imagine a 16-year-old telling his father to buy him a laptop. They'll be wondering, what do you want to do with a laptop? Or do you want to go into Yahoo? It's difficult to convince most of those parents to invest, in their offsprings. So these are also some of the major barriers. So if the government are not coming forth, to assist in uplifting, their skills, and their parents are also not coming forth. So what exactly are they expected to do? So if you want to, so we can look at them from various perspectives. But then the truth of the matter is this, the barriers actually do exist. But then we can also go, just like you said, be and it is. So we can also decide to overlook most of all these barriers and see how we can, self-develop ourselves, in a way that will be befitting to the society at large. Not just self-acclaimed developers, but actually put ourselves through the internship. Learn from the official, maybe from the basic offices, learn from the experiences from various companies, then eventually apply to various jobs. But a lot of them do not want to go through all these processes. They just want to be self-acclaimed. They want to go online and learn a few lines of code and then eventually start earning the money. So the barriers actually, they are well aware of what the society demands. In Africa, here is much more different. But then, just like I said, they do exist. But then we can still go above and beyond to make it real.
Thank you so much, Adebayo. Now, still on the same barrier question. As he was speaking, I decided to do a few playback in my own head. And I say, okay, what are the barriers I have also observed? And I would also chip in these questions, just expanding the concept of barriers a bit more. Is the barrier for girls more than the barriers for boys, for example? Is the barrier for young kids primary school, what we would call primary school, secondary school, more than those for those in higher institution. As we all know in tech, a lot of people leave secondary school in areas or communities or countries with abundance of access, right? And from secondary school they are getting tech jobs and they are good enough. They are not on paper middle grade developers or engineers. Do we have barriers in allowing or empowering people in primary school, secondary school here to achieve the same goal? Do we have barriers in recruitment? We want to see your university degree rather than your skills. Are these barriers people face? Young entrepreneurs, I don't know, there are a lot of them in the audience. What are the barriers they face? I am sure there are barriers that we face, even the best of us, as a result of living and working in Africa, and perhaps studying in Africa too. Longi, you want to share your experience on a few of these barriers?
Like you rightly pointed out, barriers are in levels and in degrees. When you look at kids coming up, probably their barriers could be probably maybe parents not wanting them to learn, that particular skill. That could be their barrier at that level. Then probably those who are done with school, their barrier could still be their parents, because at that point, all the parents want them to do is to go and secure a degree. But within the space where they're waiting for admission, okay, just get busy. And as soon as schools are, and they will not encourage them anymore. Okay, just follow that with you. We want for you to learn. So I still feel that's also a barrier. And then for those who are probably independent, who can take care of themselves, who can make their own decisions, probably graduates after service and all that. Probably their barriers is we've talked about it, where self-inflicted, where you don't want to learn. You refuse to learn, right? Because learning is continuous. So you feel that you've arrived. That's also a barrier. While other people are achieving more, you just want to settle where you are. Probably you make money. So that's also a barrier, because you can be a great, developer. You can do much more. So that's also a barrier. And then, so maybe when we get to where we'll talk about government and all that. But this is we're talking about in-house here. It's a charity begins at home. These are the things we face internally, and we're telling you because we're in the kitchen cooking, so we know these things. Sometimes we get disappointed with young people who probably started growing. They are showing that commitment, and they get to your point, and they stop growing. And they stop learning. So we say, hey, this is the area I want you to dive into, because moving forward we want to concentrate, and then they are not cooperating. Okay, you are doing all you could. They're not cooperating, they're not following. So these are some of the barriers that we face. There are exciting kids that have shown, prospect, to do amazing things, but they refuse to grow. Okay, let's move into blockchain, let's move into AI, let's move into other stuff, but they will not. Because anytime you give them a tax, they will not turn it.
Let me interject, because this sounds a bit counterintuitive. These are young people, they want more money. They know that there is more money in the technologies you are pushing them to, yet they refuse, they are reluctant to make the move. Are they scared of failure? Are they worried that it will take a longer time to get the reward if they start learning those new skills? Or they just feel, I don't want to learn this high-end stuff in this environment. Or they feel, you're not giving me enough. Why exactly are they holding back? Because if we have to remove barriers, we need to understand why those barriers are there.
There's funding.
Okay, Salami, you want to bail us out?
There are barriers up, down, left, right. But I think the main one, the elephant in the room, is is funding and capacity development. See, we at Tide Lab, we've been training. At Tide Lab, we have been training kids for the last 2 years. We training on software development within the 6-month bootcamp program. Of course, we are not focusing on just the software itself, but more of the idea behind what software can do, which has to do with the problem solving, critical thinking. Yeah, all those software programs are just tools. It's well. Now, but it will surprise you that most of these kids, they don't even have a workable computer. It needs serious training. It's not a YouTube 1 minute, 2 minute, 30 minute, 1 hour training. It needs professionals to come in to set up a proper structure. And when we say structure, starting from when you wake up from the beginning of the day till the end of the day when you are sleeping, equip them, put all the necessary things that is available so that everything you are learning every day, as you are talking to your colleagues, part of the students, it's still learning. All these things, they cost a lot of money. Do we have them? Even the people that are sponsoring us, maybe parents. Are parents rich enough to be able to provide these things for their kids? It's no. The answer is no. So we all know this, and for me, that's the first barrier. And the only way we can really start working on this is, first, it must start from the government. How much money are they really putting into this so-called capacity development? And trust me, it's not even only about technology. This stuff for Sony and some other companies, outside the world. Now, for you to know that there's a barrier, why is it that when abroad where they are, there's no network? You have given them data, but then there's no network because MTN is deciding to be funny or Glo is deciding to be funny. So all of these things, that enabling environment, if you are in the US now, your problem won't be about internet as long as you can pay for it. Now we have paid for
I don't want us to focus too much on government's place in the whole of this idea of growing digital. If you wait for government, it will not happen. That's the truth. And it's across the world. Innovation series before government starts to then take into it. So what can we do? And I want to identify 2 basic issues. There are others, and we cannot overemphasize this. Again, like I said in the beginning, we need to be celebrating the right things. You cannot expect people to look at, and I'm sorry if this is sounding a bit funny, but you cannot expect people in tech to continue to celebrate tech when we're celebrating, I'm trying to be very careful here, when we're celebrating delegates that are going to go and get thousands of dollars for doing next to nothing, right? We need to be celebrating the right things. If we focus on celebrating the right things, guaranteed people's attention would be focused in that direction. If you're able to celebrate people, young people doing great things in tech, and they're able to tell their stories effectively, they're not just coming to show you the finished product that looks fantastic and beautiful and fancy. They're also telling you the struggles. People will be able to relate to those struggles as they go through them as well. And it's easier to sell these success stories that way. It's easier to inspire people that way. If we focus on doing this, and we focus on ensuring that private sector is also enabling and creating some of these ideas, it works better. I'll give you an example. We were opportune to be bidding for a job, right? And it was open to providers internationally. And we were one of 3 Nigerian companies. There were 10 of us in total. And one single decision that was made by a member of the board changed the whole dynamics. I mean, we cannot in all honesty say that we want to compete on the global stage as we are now. We can try, we do, but we have limitations. And these limitations are real limitations. Now, a single board member on the panel then said, look, the assessments for Nigerian companies would be done differently from assessments from foreign companies. One single decision, and it changed the entire dynamics. It's not like Nigerian companies cannot deliver on this job. No. But they are in an environment that is already disenfranchised from day one, from start. So you need to be able to create those kinds of level playing fields for people. We're not talking about equality here, it's equity. And if you're talking about equity, we need to reflect it in those decisions that make us look for some of these, identify these gaps. So apart from the socio-cultural element of it, we need to also look at the cultural elements, is what he has also mentioned. We need to be making sure that we're making people understand that your growth cannot be pegged to what you have achieved today. It cannot be. You need to constantly be aspiring to do better. And one thing that we also find in the industry now in Nigeria, which is very puzzling to me, is we creating some kind of apathy for foreign assistance. I'm not sure how we have come about that, but I have been in rooms where certain CTOs have said, look, I don't want any foreign person on any team that is working on my project and things like that. And I think it's very wrong. You cannot assess yourself and benchmark yourself by being a local champion. It's not done anywhere in the world. If you need to have inputs from teams across the world to enhance and develop your local talent, it should be embraced. And these are ways that we need to be able to grow and to be able to, we cannot grow in silos. Yes, there's the YouTubes, there's all of these facilities which have been mentioned, but they're not enough. We need to be looking for ways to collaborate with foreign partners to ensure that we're growing these skills internally. This happened in India, we see the story. It's happened in Indonesia, we see the story. Why should we now try to create some kind of cult mentality in Nigeria to say it must be done all by ourselves? No. We know where we are, we know our limitations. We need to be able to build on top of those limitations and leverage on things and partnerships that actually let us grow. I think this is my input.
All right, gentlemen, we are approaching home stretch. One round of questions, and then we will each give our closing shot and ask the audience for questions. Now, we've looked at barriers, we've analyzed what the social construct changes, social system, self-imposed barriers, barriers imposed by the environment. Now, I'd like us to take a deep dive at sectors. You introduced the concept of sectorial challenges earlier, Lonje. I'll leave it to you. Whatever sector you think you're most passionate about, health, education. I know, I'm not sure if it was Salami that was talking about security earlier. Is it security, startups, whatever sector you want to closely now give a quick synopsis of what changes do we need to make in that sector to remove those barriers. I'm particularly watching out for actionable submissions here that we can go away with. Thank you. Again, I would like to start from you, Adela.
Recently, we made an attempt to create a different formal entity because we realized that when creating solutions, a lot of people would want to mix, all these new technologies, blockchain, AI, machine learning, and so on and so forth, just so that they would feel important, like we are the first that created this. But then actually, what problem are we trying to solve? Some problems only require you to be as simple as possible to solve them. There is no need for you to bring together all sort of jargons because you want to solve a problem. Let's look at the financial sector, for example. Anybody that looks towards deploying solutions using blockchain technology these days, they always want to go into the fintech. They follow the money all the time. Just like we said, most of the developers are always after creating more revenue sources for them. But then we had this backwards. Banking the unbanked, we need to find a way to create opportunities for people to be able to afford a daily square meal before they will be able to. Now, these are most of the areas people are not looking into.
let me just jump in. I agree with you. Now, fintech, so from a sectorial perspective, you're looking at fintech, social entrepreneurs in fintech. It requires investment, it requires time, people want returns. So if the society does not provide the right kind of incentive to defray some of the costs, some grants and all of that, wouldn't that be a barrier? Because I wouldn't raise, like a lot of our guys are raising, $100 million and then pour everything into solving some social problem that would not bring returns or impact on the valuation. Social investment fund and so on, a problem for empowering people to focus on that. Or the right policy.
In recent times, I mean, if people actually find small time to do their own research, going online, you realize that there are actually a lot of ecosystem grants, funding for initiatives such as this. But then, I mean, it might be in kind of lower amount compared to, the millions of USD people are able to raise from VC funding, which, by the way, it's absolutely unrequired. And people always try to but then if they are actually to look at the likes of the UN, a lot of them are actually providing grants and funding for initiatives that actually create solutions for the overlooked areas that people have not really considered, but then people are suffering. They require solutions. But then we are talking about providing funding like, let's say, 25,000 USD for solving solutions, for creating solutions such as this, as against people, offering them 100,000 to 500,000 for seed funding. So people always tend to follow the money, which is still the same problem we are facing till date. So grants are always available for, regardless of what solution you want to provide. It's only a matter of how much are you getting.
Okay, thank you very much, Adeola. Please just prepare your final thoughts. When I come back to you next, in 1 minute, you give us your final thought on the subject of barriers and the future of tech in Africa. Longi, please, in 3 minutes, any sector. Members of the audience, this is the time for you to begin to prepare your questions. If you have any, please indicate by raising your hand. We would like to know how many people would have questions, and then we can take them. Longi, please.
Yeah, so for me, I feel education. Now, capacity building falls under education, however you want to see it. So reason being that for the past 3 or 4 years, I realized that we build more talents than we build products. So, and over time I became very passionate about building talents because it has a chain reaction. These talents will one day sectors of the economy, finance, agriculture, and the likes. So that's the chain reaction I'm talking about. So talent. So for me, I feel that hubs and other organizations that are, building talents, I've done enough. I've done enough on their own. I know some without funding, and they just keep passionate about, they're doing what you're doing. And I feel that government, who is at the core of digital transformation, again, I don't want, because there's a thin line between being, entitled and not. So even if the government does not come to say, okay, we provide certain intervention to ensure that you keep doing what you're doing and do even much more, we'll just still be there doing what we're doing, because for us it's not. By the way, we didn't go into any. We'll contribute our quota, this way. So we'll keep doing it, and we've been doing it. But I feel that since government's job is that of facilitation, I mentioned earlier on, I feel they have not done enough, in that regards. Saying they have not done enough doesn't mean they have not done certain things. And for me, like I said, that we have a large number of young people, and then it's a race, and we need to get there before we wake up one day and realize that we're backwards and things are becoming obsolete. Like I said, technology to get us out of the mess that we're in. That's just the truth. There's no other way around it. There's no way around it. We need to leverage because it enables us.
A famous TV personality. Salami, please. 3 minutes. So I'm sure you'll be talking about security.
No, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm not a security professional. I think where my passion lies now is in education. The basic of all our problems is just, education. And when you streamline it, it goes to, capacity development. And for me, I know Africa Digital Future is not just about tech. It's cut across. I'm currently setting up a media hub, and one of the things that we're trying to do is to create a platform where all kind of guys that they already have certain talent in that space can come in and co-create stuff, and everybody can co-own it in that way. So if you're a sound guy, if you're a sound engineer, you come in. Many people watch Glamour Girls over the weekend, and they were complaining about how the sound was poor, and a lot of other movies that are going on in Nigeria especially. If you have sound engineer that is very good, you have a cinematographer that is good, you have all kind of field in the film industry, creating more jobs for people. You are allowing them to achieve their dreams very, very early in life, and you are also opening them up to the market, global market. So that's what we are working on, and we hope that their best is good enough. But private companies need to just start coming in and start doing stuff. And like I rightly said, if it's social entrepreneurship, we need to be sure that once we put in money into this, we also need to have a way of making it sustainable. And that's why we are bringing these guys in, even though we are training them, but we also want the experienced guys to come in and do the proper training. See, real capacity development needs real money and real equipment to be able to do that. And that's what we are working on, and we hope that others would. We know some people are doing that, but when we have more people doing that, I think we would have a better future to celebrate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I know the attention and focus on NFTs and media space and people. All right. Thank you very much for the question. For the benefit of other members of the audience, I will do a quick recap of the question and then have the panel answer the question. So the first question is, he wants the panel to speak to the impact of tendencies to commit fraud and other physical violence. Has observed that a large number of young people that use technology have the tendency to use technology for wrong purpose. Why and how should we manage or correct it? Second is that there is a large potential pool of investors, people with funds, but who would rather deal with traditional investment and play in the traditional economy rather than put their funds in digital economy, or for government people transform the economy that is supervised from traditional economy to digital economy. So for the first question, I think he directed it to you. Yeah, and then the second we can just have, so this is what I will do. We'll take the first question, and then for the second question, instead of 30 seconds, we can all each have a minute. So you can address the first part, the first 30 seconds, the question, and then your closing remark. Thank you.
Okay, so real quick, the fact that we have fake currency does not mean we'll not transact in money, so we'll not use money, we'll not spend money. That's a food for thought. So what I mean by that is that yes, we have legit people who are using, young people who are using technology for good. It's a means to an end for them. It's a means of livelihood and all that. And then we have people who are doing it, dubiously in other means to dupe people and all that. Yeah, we have those people cut across. But the truth of the matter is, let me tell you an instance. On the plateau, when we had these issues when the security agents were picking up our members for thinking that we quickly went to the government and said, we are stakeholders here. We're driving technology and all that. This is our problem. And so we had a meeting, and then the idea is we'll come up with a form of identification, coming from government saying, oh, okay, these people are legit, and all that. So we had a commission. We invited the police commissioner. He's sending a representative and other law agencies to be part of the meeting. So we agreed that an identification will suffice. So you flash it whenever you are wrongly accused and all that, or you are working with a laptop. So this is one of the ways we try to mitigate that. And then again, young people need to select their leaders, right? You need to select leaders who will, encourage you in the right way. No right-thinking leader will ask you to be a talk and then this to mess around. So choose people as leaders or mentors who will put you in the right track. So because you know it when you are doing the right thing or you are doing the wrong thing. You know it as a young person. So that said, we're doing digital transformation. We need to take it. That's where inclusion comes in. For instance, agriculture. We have a project we're working on currently. As a matter of fact, I'm going to Gombe on Thursday to meet with. We go to the roots where these people are, farmers are. Yeah, we interact with them. They know the problems. They will tell you. So we don't just sit in the city and talk about these things. If we want it implemented in the agricultural sector, or in the the agri sector, we will need to go down to farmers. That's where people are farming. We interact with them. We stand and respond. That's how these things are done. And I can assure there are a lot of people who are doing that. We're not the only people. It's not the first time. So people are going.
Some East African countries, we call it the East Africa Blockchain Expedition. The purpose of which is to identify the current state of blockchain deployment or adoption in East African countries. So we spoke with both the private and the public offices to understand the current status on capacity. So while speaking with most of the private establishment, we understand that, a lot of benefits from deploying these solutions. But then the fact that the government is yet to get fully involved with the regular Oshoba, which was handwritten, so he couldn't read it clearly. Then he asked, don't they have typewriters? So he ordered them to new typewriters for all the schools. So that was how I learned that they were able to abolish the use of old means.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Adedayo. Salami, please.
Yeah, so you mentioned Togri and Yahoo boys. On Togri, I think that is simple. If our politicians stop using the talks for their motives, I think we would one way or the other. There's something that those people that they have. I don't think government or EFCC is just to be going out there and be, oh, we arrested 100 Yahoo boys today. We arrested, I don't think that is the news that we need to be hearing. I think we should be hearing more of, they have called those guys in and understand how they are going about what led them into Yahoo. I can't do it now. I can't do Yahoo. So these guys, there are skills that they have. Be able to get them and be able to analyze what is, understand what is really going on behind the scene and see what the country can have from those guys. Again, it's still all about capacity. In this case, it just means redirection of purpose and focus. That's what I think government should do. And of course, start talking to parents too. But even when you talk to parents, you still need a proper system, a proper structure, which can only be set up by government to be able to, make sure that it cuts across and we have a larger impact. Yeah, I don't know, what is the other question?
Thank you very much, Salami.
Thank you very much. So I'll agree with Mr. Salami. Showing people that there is a better way to legitimately make money. There's also the idea of protecting those that are legitimately making this money as well, which is very critical. There are a lot of young people that I know personally that have left Nigeria. They didn't move to Europe, they didn't move to America, they moved to other African countries and are working remotely from there. The locations they are in other African countries are not necessarily better than Nigeria, but they feel a lot more protected. They're legitimately making their money, but they left Nigeria because they felt vulnerable. I personally have experienced it, and it feels ridiculous to have to defend your daily activities to a police officer that doesn't even understand what it is that you're talking about. So it's not just about fixing it's not just about making Yahoo in itself, demarketing it. It's about also making sure that, again, we're celebrating the right people, right? If we're able to make sure that the right people are being celebrated and the right ideas are being celebrated, people will gravitate towards it. What's the reason for Yahoo? Because people find other people that have done Yahoo driving flashy cars and living lush lives and all of this. But there are also people making legitimate money that are also doing this, right? If we're celebrating these people and we're making noise about them, people will ask themselves the right question. Nobody in their right senses wants to do the wrong thing, right? So I feel as an incentive we need to do that, but it needs to be within a greater framework. It needs to be about educating the law enforcement guys too, to understand what it is that technology is and what the impact is. It's about making them understand that, look, the fact that you see a transfer of 1 million naira in my account does not mean that that 1 million naira is 1 million naira now. It's 1 million naira for 5 years that I've been working to upskill myself to be able to earn 1 million naira now. It's about also making sure that these law enforcement guys, in a broader scope, are also well compensated. It's a bigger problem. If a law enforcement officer is well paid, his focus is a lot less on your money that you have made legitimately. So let's not, I understand your points, but I feel like it has to be a more holistic view on this. It has to start from picking the right leaders, like he has said. It has to be in the sense of making sure that we're also creating the right context for people, whether structurally, educationally, socially, religiously, if you want to go that way. It also means that we need to, as a country, deliberately look at what is our plan. We keep talking about this digital transformation as though it's just one enclave of the whole thing. A serious country will build a whole structure around it. That's what we should be looking at. It's about making sure that those that you have driven away out of the country because of issues that we have created, we find ways of, constructively getting them back and building and legitimately giving.
It's been my privilege to moderate this session. We've been discussing the theme unlocking the barriers to Africa's digital future. The panelists have, of course, done justice to this topic. We've first identified that most times these barriers are in the mind. Some are self-imposed barriers. And indeed, we agree that there are environmental barriers for the best of us. And these barriers can be managed on a personal level, as a network, and government has a big role to play in stepping up in also addressing a number of these barriers. Gentlemen, please join me to thank Adedayo Adebajo. He's the Managing Director of Gelurida Africa DLT. NOB, right? Okay. Theodore is the Managing Director and CEO of NOB. And Salami Kadri is the founder, Tech Specialist Consulting, Tide Lab Africa. And then finally, but not the least, is Adeola Bojuwoye, correct? Bojuwoye is the Managing Partner of Roundstone Consulting. My name is Bosun Ayeni. I'm the CEO of Compumetrics. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the sessions. Thank you.
And the photo session. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And with that, we have gradually come to the conclusion of the event today. Tomorrow we're starting at 9 a.m. on the dot. So please, let's all come in on time. So we'll start on time. Today we started a little late. We lost over 30 minutes. Let's come on time tomorrow. Invite your friends. Don't forget, it's all about meeting, connecting, and networking. So make sure you meet somebody new here, you connect, you network.